Um, let's go back a little bit again to the publications. It seemed, I mean, the publications highlight war crime after war crime after war crime, corruption. I mean, to the point that the diplomats at the UN were asked to get Ban Ki-moon's DNA. I mean, there's all types of crazy, crazy conduct that the US has been doing, and that was exposed by WikiLeaks, especially um, the murders and gruesome murders of thousands and thousands of people. Yet it is the journalist who is in jail, not the people who perpetrated these crimes. And I want to go to Richard to ask him a little bit to elaborate a little bit on about this. But once Assange is prosecuted, what will other journalists what will happen if the New York Times gets a scoop the size of the WikiLeaks scoop? Will they publish?
Hi, so thanks for having me on the panel. It's really an honor to be here, and among other journalists, you know, we're few, but we're the only ones who covered this hearing and did our due diligence and duty to protecting freedom of press. So I'm really honored to be among you guys. And when it comes to the impact this is going to have on journalists, I mean, I think the very fact that this hearing is taking place is indicative of how much a threat national security journalism poses in the mind of the ruling elites. And, you know, as Noam Chomsky eloquently put it in his witness statement that was submitted to the court on day 17, this is not the publications that Julian Assange put out with WikiLeaks. They're not actually pertinent to national security. They're pertinent to the security of the ruling elites. They're pertinent to the security of the presidents, the leaders, the military-industrial complex, the national security blob, who are undertaking these war crimes and would like to keep that as secret as possible and out of the public sphere. So they're actually threatened by this. It's not because it's actually a matter of national security or because it actually puts anyone at harm. I mean, even when it comes to this this myth that they're perpetuating inside of the courtroom that WikiLeaks allegedly harmed the names of, or rather harmed alleged informants by unredacted cables. I mean, first of all, we know for a fact there was an exhaustive redaction process as people who worked on these leaks testified in court. And they were trying to make it out to be as though Julian Assange is some callous guy out looking for fame and he just dumped all these leaks. This is a lie. We know for a fact there was a very extensive, exhaustive redaction process. And moreover, the DOD, by their own admission, they could not find a single example of someone actually being harmed by the WikiLeaks publication. And the whole notion that we would outweigh the suffering of these countless victims. I mean, Chelsea Manning uncovered 15,000 dead Iraqis, thanks to Iraq body count, thanks to her leaks, uncovered that, which is akin to finding a mass grave. Never mind the million Iraqis that died as a whole in the war that was started in 2003. And we're just glossing over that. They're glossing over that in the courtroom and acting as if imaginary informants that they cannot name have more value than the people hurt and killed and tortured in these war crimes. And even Khalid al-Masri, I mean, the fact that his torture was proven as a fact. I mean, he got a ruling from the European Court of Human Rights. They paid him compensation. They held Macedonia accountable for this and named the CIA as perpetrators inside of the court decision. So we know for a fact that this happened thanks to WikiLeaks. And nonetheless, it's being the judge tried to omit this from the court, tried to stop the defense from submitting it into the record, and then he was unable to testify, and it's because there were video link issues, and then she immediately did not give him a chance to even try another way to reach the court and just dismissed it. I mean, this is so dehumanizing and disgusting to treat a torture victim like that, because you can imagine that it's very very hurtful to bring up these memories again and come and actually be brave enough to testify in the court about that again after having already done that. You know, that takes a lot of guts, and it must be really upsetting. And he tried nonetheless, and he was just dismissed. And so journalists, what national security journalism does, what WikiLeaks did, and what Julian Assange is on trial for is really because it poses a threat to the ruling elites and the people who are starting these endless wars. And I think it's really disgusting how a lot of journalists and media news outlets have actually adopted things that WikiLeaks pioneered or helped pioneer, such as a secure drop system. And now they've left WikiLeaks and Assange holding the bag, and they won't actually open their mouths or come in defense of Assange, even though they also publish issues pertaining to national security. If they get their hands on a scoop, and that they did publish a lot of these things in tandem with WikiLeaks at first, but I mean, now they're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be seen. I mean, I was outside the court. I walked out on the last day. There's not a single person from mainstream media there, save for perhaps Rupley and RT and you know, there's no CNN, there's no Channel 4, there's no BBC, none of them anywhere to be found, and definitely not The Guardian. And, you know, I think it's very indicative since the beginning, because even the day after Cryptome published the leaks, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but nonetheless, immediately The Guardian went into full action and condemned WikiLeaks along with Le Monde and Die Presse to try and you know, shift all of the blame onto Assange, as if he did not undertake an exhaustive redaction process, as if he was just some careless journalist, and they had no part in this. I think that was really abhorrent and abysmal behavior, and they've carried that out onto this day. And I really think that this is the true reason they're going after Assange. They're going after WikiLeaks because the nature of the things he exposed, these war crimes, are so grave. I mean, just the one that you mentioned earlier, Juan, about the house that was leveled with an airstrike after they executed an entire family in cold blood. I mean, this is really what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people who are behaving like Nazis. And this is unacceptable. They're committing genocide in plain sight and trying to normalize this. And Daniel Ellsberg in his statement talked about how they didn't even have the same classification that as the things that he was working on with the Pentagon Papers. They become normalized now to with war crimes. There's a desensitization that we won't even bother classifying these as top secret. It's just, they're just basic field reports now. And, you know, I just want to draw the attention to the Overseas Operations Bill, which had its second reading now in the Parliament in the UK, where they're trying to legalize war crimes essentially and implement a statute of limitation of 5 years. And my point here is that even if someone is found guilty of having, or rather been caught committing war crimes, because we've seen, for example, with the Sunday Times and BBC publishing these emails from Helmand province in Afghanistan, where they were also executing people in cold blood. They were saying things like, oh, we found these Afghan men who brandished a weapon or a grenade all of a sudden, and they found more bodies than weapons. So, I mean, this doesn't even add up mathematically. And we know this went all the way from Afghanistan, from Helmand province, to the Ministry of Defense in the UK. And not a single person was found guilty. Not a single person in the entire chain of command. And, you know, when we talk about Musa, for example, Baha Musa, who was literally beaten to death by British forces in Iraq, a 26-year-old Iraqi man. The corporal who did this, he received 1 year in jail, and then he was court-martialed, sentenced to a year in jail, and then let out. So no one is going to be held accountable for these war crimes, even when we have clear-cut evidence of them committing murder. And it's absolutely disgusting that the only person on trial here is Julian Assange. The only organization on trial here is WikiLeaks. The only thing that's on trial here is real journalism that actually holds power accountable, that holds these governments accountable. And, you know, I recall very distinctly how a UK High Court in 2017 blocked a prosecution against Tony Blair, who helped start the Iraq War with George Bush, and their lies about these 45 minutes, you know, the UK is 45 minutes away from an attack by Saddam Hussein, and all these disgusting lies day in, day out. I remember watching it every single day, brainwashing us with these lies about weapons of mass destruction. And so when you have someone who's juxtaposing that, who's coming who's diametrically opposed to the propaganda, to the lies, and who is bringing all of this into the light, and it evaporates their power, as Noam Chomsky eloquently put it. And that's exactly why they're going after Julian Assange. And unfortunately, I don't think that these mainstream outlets, they care to even pursue this kind of level of journalism. As we saw this BBC Home Affairs correspondent saying that it was a repetitive hearing, like he couldn't even be bothered to come and watch it. I mean, this is really disgusting, and this is going to have grave ramifications for people doing real journalism if it actually goes ahead and he's extradited, you know, God forbid.
I mean, that's exactly.